she knows about Catholic education, being a product of Catholic education herself. The person I'm going to ask to come up to the podium now, she and I have at various times been co-partners, colleagues at programs, etc. She is the news anchor for KLFY TV 10, and she is the person of Ms. Darla Montgomery. Darla.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cotton. I tell you what, he is my hero. I love hearing him speak. He is the king of extemporaneous. He is, I don't even know if I can stand next to him and say it's an equal exchange. I've learned a lot from him. I take a lot of notes when I hear him speak. So, and I know we're going to thank him later, but I would ask that you give him a round of applause. He contributes and gives us so much. When he spoke about my Catholic education, many of you may know that I am from Opelousas, Louisiana, and I attended Holy Ghost Catholic School with many of the Sisters of the Holy Family. My grandmother's sister, my great aunt, Sister Juliana, who left us many years ago. Thank you. She left us many years ago. My summers were spent at, and I had to ask Ms. Jerry Collier to help me remember earlier. I said, what's the name of the school, the academy? And Karen Pierre as well piped in real quick, St. Mary's Academy, Darla. And I spent my childhood there in the halls of that enormous and incredible institution. And I remember spending nights there, even with my sister Juliana. And I'm gonna say I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, maybe 7. And if you've never seen it, it's enormous. It's maybe 3 of Holy Rosary Institutes, and the lights would go out. The ceilings were maybe 20 feet tall, and we were in the dormitories with our families because the families would go and visit the sisters. And so, of course, we would get out of bed. We wanted to look around at this incredible place, and the sisters, as they did a lot back then, and I'm so happy to see them still wearing the habits and the full gear, would just suddenly appear, and there was this huge shadow right behind you. What are you doing out of bed? It's time to go to bed. But very many fond memories of the Sisters of the Holy Family. And was speaking to Mr. Cotton just a few moments ago about how important it is that we do preserve this legacy, that we keep it. Holy Rosary, Holy Ghost, the Sisters of the Holy Family, and all of the schools that they established throughout Southwest Louisiana served such an important purpose. And it goes without me saying, but I will say it anyway, without them, many African Americans would not have received an education. So it is because of you we are here. For those of you who do not know me, I am Darla Montgomery, news anchor for KLFY TV 10, 5, 6, and 10 p.m. We are in the middle of a ratings month, and I just thought it would be very important for me to mention that. Just in case you get the little books in the mail. You just check off, you know, TV 10. Now on to my important task for this evening. I have this distinct honor and pleasure of introducing to you the keynote speaker for this event. He is the longest tenured current leader of an American university and homegrown from right here in Lafayette. Your program documents the life and some of the accomplishments of this great leader. I will not read from the printed material in your program, but rather I will share with you some additional facts about Dr. Norman C. Francis. After returning from the Army in 1957, Dr. Francis joined the U.S. Attorney's Office to assist with integrating federal agencies. During the turbulent times preceding the Civil Rights Movement, he returned to Xavier University to begin his climb up the big administrative ladder. In 1961, while serving as Dean of Men, he played a key role amidst bomb threats in Xavier's decision to house the Freedom Riders, an integrated group testing application of the Supreme Court's decision banning discrimination in interstate rail and bus travel in a campus dormitory after they were flown to New Orleans by federal marshals after having been attacked in 3 Alabama cities: Anniston, Birmingham, and Montgomery. About that same time, Dr. Francis acted as counsel for the Xavier student body president Rudolph Lombard, who was arrested for attempting to integrate the lunch counter at McCrory's on Canal Street in New Orleans. Y'all remember McCrory stores? I do. It was those experiences that led him to choose the path of education over that of a law career. This no doubt was one of the reasons Dr. Francis was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by then-President George W. Bush in December of 2006 during a White House ceremony in Washington, D.C., of course. This award is the nation's highest honor for any civilian to receive. During his many years as president of Xavier, Dr. Francis guided Xavier's growth in both size and dimension. Xavier has more than tripled its enrollment, broadened its curriculum, and expanded its campus, and has received national attention for its award-winning academic initiatives. The tradition of academic excellence at Xavier is consistent with the dreams of its founder, St. Catherine Drexel, and her Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. On November 21st of 2008 in New Orleans at the Ernest N. Memorial Convention Center, Dr. Francis celebrated his 40th year as president of Xavier University. At the 40th anniversary, gala, and the theme was Legacy of a Legend. The event was hosted by Dr. Bill Cosby and featured a performance by Grammy winner Gladys Knight. Dr. Francis' legacy as the first late president of Xavier is epitomized in his unwavering commitment to educational and social equality, spiritual enlightenment, and community service. Admired for his sharp mind, revered for his modesty, and praised for his dedication, Dr. Francis enjoys a prestigious national reputation. In 2009, Dr. Francis received the St. Catherine Drexel National Justice Award from the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament at a celebration in Pennsylvania. Francis was honored for his national leadership in education, social justice, and community relations, as well as his outstanding performance as president of Xavier University, as we said, for 40+ years. In July of 2010, President Barack Obama chose Xavier University as the site to deliver his Hurricane Katrina 5-year observance speech. In President Obama's remarks, he praised the university, and in particular, Dr. Francis, for its own recovery efforts. In the words of President Obama, and I quote, "And we see that here, at Xavier, less than a month after the storm struck, amidst debris and flood-damaged buildings, President Francis promised that this university would reopen in a matter of months. Some said he was crazy. Some said it couldn't happen. But they didn't count on what happens when one force of nature meets another." End quote. And by January, 4 months later, class was again in session. Because of his involvement with a small group of Holy Rosary supporters and the Sisters of the Holy Family, along with Father James, in a meeting with the Catholic Diocese of Lafayette in November of 2009, the Holy Rosary property was returned to the Sisters of the Holy Family in December of 2010. So, yes. So here we are tonight, preparing to launch an all-out effort to restore the main building on the campus of the historic Holy Rosary Institute. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to present to you one of the nation's most respected educators, Dr. Norman C. Francis, president of Xavier University in New Orleans, Louisiana, our keynote speaker.
Thank you very much. That hand mic would be great, but I'm from the country. Let me thank all of you for being here. You know, all of this, what was just read, I appreciate it very much. People write these things, and they really romanticize them a little bit. In fact, in the program, they said my family was poor. I never thought I was poor. My khakis were always clean and pressed. We had food. We went to bed happy and all of that. Now, we didn't have any money when we went to bed. But we were rich. We were very rich. Rich in the kinds of things that are important in life. And so as I start this tonight, and I'm going to do this, in fact, there was a minister who brought his child to a church one Sunday, and the minister did just what I just did, put it down, and his little son said, "Daddy, what is the minister doing?" He says, well, he's putting his watch down to let you think that he's going to control his words. He said it doesn't mean a damn thing. He'll talk as long as he wants to. Well, let me first say that I don't think I could do an Academy Award presentation as Don Hernandez did just a few minutes ago. That was perfect. Very well said. And it sort of worries you because when you at the age that you remember most of what he was talking about, and not having to read about it, you start wondering, oh my God. Now I have to make two things clear. This business about being the longest president in the United States, 43 years, you have to know I started when I was 15 years of age. You're trying to add up how old I am. I'll start with 15 and add 43 to it. But let me say I'm happy to be here. I've been in New Orleans now 56 plus years, and I've had a great experience, still going. Haven't left yet because I can't find another job. I have never left Lafayette. People think I'm from New Orleans, but I remind them I'm from Lafayette. And I do that because I owe a lot to Lafayette. I owe a lot to my parents, my church, my school, neighbors, and the like, because I sat and listened to Mr. Hernandez, and I thought about, even before I came here, how blessed I was, to grow up at the time that I grew up. Now, all of you know what times those were. They still were the evils of Plessy versus Ferguson. In fact, I couldn't walk into a restaurant in the front door until late 1984. I'd already gotten a law degree. I'd gone to serve my country. But I never left my church. I never left the sense that there were better times coming. And there were going to have to be people who kept their sense and their balance so that when they came, we could do what should have been done much earlier. Now, the problem we have, and I say this in all honesty, in all the years that I've been in education, in fact, some of you who know my daddy, Joe Francis the barber, my daddy was very frugal. He was a tough, hard-working man. My mother was a diplomat. You know, she took care of all of us. She was a psychologist. She convinced us that we were good as anybody else while everybody else was telling us we were not. I tell my faculty, my mother and my father were better psychologists than all of those PhDs I have. And they never graduated from high school, which says something, which says in effect that you gotta be smart, you gotta be educated. But the most uncommon thing today is common sense. And I owe to this community and to my parents the fact that they gave me everything I needed here in this town to do what I'm doing now. Or sure, I had to learn a little bit about administration and people and the like. And I wish there were more students here, because when I talk to students, and you look in their eyes and they say, oh, that's this president, this big shot. He must have been born with a silver spoon in his mouth. First thing, no, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. In fact, I shined shoes on Jefferson Street across from the Daily Advertiser. Did that for 2 years. Now I worked with Mr. Richards, painting contractor. And that was a time when they were still using oil paint. You had to clean the brushes with kerosene. Remember all those days? And they wouldn't let me paint. I cleaned the brushes. I was taught humility. I was taught that do what you have to do. Play the cards they deal you. Yeah. But they taught me how to paint. They taught me patience. They taught me discipline. They taught me integrity. They taught me that you respect yourself and everybody else, and you'll get greater respect. Now I'll tell you the story because my daddy thought I was going to be a big-time lawyer, come back to Lafayette, make $1 million. And here I took a profession with the greatest nonprofit organization in the world. But as Mr. Hernandez said, my daddy died happy. He died because he had a bishop going to heaven with him. He didn't trust going to heaven with a lawyer. I tell you all these things tonight because if in fact a Holy Rosary never existed, I'd be somewhere trying to find one or to build one. And I don't think we fully appreciate things that we had when we have them. Holy Rosary was an icon of an institution. It did educate people, young people, who are now everywhere. Now you wonder, well, why am I here? I graduated from St. Paul. Nobody remembers St. Paul. But I'm here because of a confluence of a number of people and things. I was taught by the Sisters of the Holy Family at St. Paul. I was taught by the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament, and I happen to have the privilege of taking on the work that Catherine Drexel started in opening the jewel of her beneficiaries, Xavier University, first slave president. And I never forgot the education of the Sisters of the Holy Family. I never forgot what Catherine Drexel did for this area. I didn't know till I read see that hand going here, there? I read the book of what Catherine Drexel gave to Native and African Americans all over the United States, and Lafayette gave to St. Paul, gave to Holy Rosary. So I'm a part of Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament, Sisters of the Holy Family. My brother was a bishop who taught at Holy Rosary. My sister taught at Holy Rosary. My daddy cut all of the hairs of the young men who were there for nothing. So I'm here because I'm part of Holy Rosary, but I'm part of something much bigger. And that is that you can't leave a legacy die. You can't close the door on a legacy. The people who worked and labored were visionaries. They were visionaries. Right now in the United States, we are all looking for heroes. I've spent enough time in education commissions and the like to find those schools that are doing what America needs. Holy Rosary did this for years and years and years. And it would be a tragedy if we let it die on the vine. And the older we get, and there are some of you who, we're getting close to my age, we start to see what we had, and we see what could be, So I'm here tonight for all of those good things of the memories, but we're not searching for a past and lose a future. We are here so that we can keep that candle burning. We got to light it again, but it can be lit again. And the one thing we need, and it's in here, you're here, is to have faith. You have to have faith. And I stand before you being in an institution that lives from day to day, but we have faith that the next day will be a better day. And yes, it is true. The president said it in his speech. They called me crazy. I didn't know, I think, what I was doing when I met in Grand Coteau, Louisiana, 5 days after Katrina, water still on the grounds in New Orleans, and one of my staff members said, Mr. President, when are we coming back? I said, January the 17th. Where in the world did that date come from? 4.5 months. But somehow I knew that we could not stay closed more than 4 months before the next semester started. We would have lost faculty. We would have lost students. And we did lose students and some faculty. I didn't have a dime to my name. And I still don't have a dime. In fact, hopefully, if you pass on I-10, you see this beautiful chapel that's being built by one of the world's finest architects. That's amazing. And he knows every inch of that building. Cesar Pelli. And we started that chapel without the money that it was going to take to pay for it. And somebody said, how do you start a building without having the money to pay for it? Oh, I said, I came from Lafayette. I had 2 sisters. And I said, my sisters would go to the store. They'd go to Bustani's, you know, or anywhere where they were selling clothes, and they'd pick out a dress or shoes, and they'd bring it to the counter. And they'd put $25 down, and they'd say, put it in layaway. So those buildings are in layaway. And I have to do what I've come here to do, to help you understand that anything is possible if you work at it, you work together, and you believe enough in the fact that it ought to be. And I'm talking about Holy Road as it ought to be, not just the memories that we cherish, but it's the right and fact of life that this country needs the Holy Rosaries of the world. Now, I'm not up here saying we're going to recreate the glorious Holy Rosary, but we can recreate in that building things that this community needs, particularly the poor in general, African Americans in particular, and I think you'll see a little bit about this later. But we can relight the candle for people who are looking for hope. They're looking for something to hold on to. And as they see the country in its drift and its movement, they don't see there's going to be anything better than what they have. And if we keep going like we're going, you know, they said, if you don't have a plan to do something, any road will take you there. And we can't afford this. This country can't afford this. But more than that, we cannot afford to lose a new generation of young people. We have lost generations of young people. And people, you know, I heard somebody say one day, oh no, you got a hold on your side of the boat. I said, well, if I got a hold on my side of the boat and we're in the same boat, you got a problem too. And so the point is that if we are all in this together, then any one of us who suffers, we will suffer too. And this country is suffering. We've gone from 1 to 17 in the world in terms of education. And there are young people, I see them every day. I walk the cement with them, I talk to them. They are bright as they can be. And yes, they are dropping out for the same reason Holy Rosary families couldn't pay for the board and life. They're not dropping out because they're not smart. You know, it'd be nice for us to say, oh, we wanted those tough schools. No, they are dropping out while they're making satisfactory progress. And the next time I see the president, I'll remind him that when he starts talking about completion rates and ratios and all of that, factor in those young people who are dropping out, the Xaviers of the world, because they can't afford to pay the tuition anymore. Are they going to school somewhere else? Pray God they are. But the problem is, I can't count them because they've left me, and the school they're going to can't count them. So they are in no man's land. So how does that rate? Only point is, I'm telling you now that in this country, we need to straighten up a lot of things. And what we need to do is choose our priorities, and that is education. Don't nickel and dime it. Find these young people, they're out there, and support them. Now, what does this mean to us here in Lafayette and to Holy Rosary? We have to get that building back in order. Now, I know about Miss Linton and Miss where's there she is. So I would think I was in Lafayette and y'all were talking about this. And I think at the table somebody said, oh, no, that'll never happen. Never happen. It's one of these, they're not entrepreneurs. Now, I know there's some entrepreneurs in here. You are making money well. And let me tell you what an entrepreneur is. An entrepreneur is someone who has an idea but does not control any money about how that idea is going to come to pass. But what that entrepreneur knows, that if he gets what he's planning, money will be there. And most people are not entrepreneurs because they stop too soon. They listen to a buddy down the street say, you're crazy. You shouldn't be doing this. And they get out of it. And they lose an idea that could have produced a lot of money. Same thing here. We will hear people say, you can't restore that building. It'll cost too much money. You don't have any money. Well, this country is trying to cut here, there, and the like, but bet your money on it. There are going to still be monies out there for people who are doing good things. You know, there are a lot of people who will be applying for the money, and there'll be money, and there'll be little, but just like a horse race, those lanes are going to open up, and those who run in and grab the opportunity will make the difference. And so we can do this in Lafayette. I'm here to give ideas. No money. But they've worked. They've worked. When we were sitting in Grand Coteau with our staff all over the place, I had a little bitty office, used to be an all-state office. I had 4 staff people. I could hand papers to my vice president for administration, my secretary, by sitting at my desk. And I did a television show on the campus of the University of Louisiana. I know that's SLI. Now you know how far back I and it was funny. I was sitting there waiting for these guys. I got there early to mic me up and all of that, and they were just talking away, da 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 da. And I sitting there and I said, I know what they're thinking. Yeah, this big shot from New Orleans District School. We got to come here early and mic him so we can put him on what was it? I think NPR. And they were just talking away in French. And so when a guy got to mic me, I said, are they still fishing for sac-a-lait back over there by the Teche? I asked him about 3 or 4 more questions. He said, how you know all that? I said, I was born and raised in that. My mother and father spoke French. My point is, I'm here tonight because I believe. I've always believed. And I have that faith. As the man from La Mancha, Mr. Cotton, yes, what he said, I'm willing to go into hell for a heavenly cause. I'm willing to go in and march into hell for a heavenly cause. This is a cause that I don't think we fully appreciate. You got one saint, one soon-to-be saint, and heroes that came out of Holy Rosary that are everywhere doing God's work, doing the country's work, doing work that nobody else would do, and they're doing it well. We have to recommit ourselves and don't let anybody turn us back. You know, yes, I was at Mass, and I'll quote the other part of the sermon, if I remember it correctly, was in the bulletin, it said, "This is the time of fulfillment." Any priest in here? It's in there. This is the time. Oh, Father, go back and read February 26th in the book. It says, "This is the time of fulfillment." And this is the time of fulfillment for Holy Rosary and for all of the people who made it possible, whom we cannot let the flame die. We've got to, rather than say curse the darkness, we got to light candles. And we can do that. And we're not asking, a few people to do a lot. We're asking everybody to do a little. Everybody to do a little. And get Lafayette energized of what they can be proud for. We're proud for Zydeco and dancing and all this, but we should be proud for the Holy Rosaries of this world. And we need to make sure that we do this. And make it your Lenten commitment, no matter what your religion is. They say, "I gave up chocolate." Well, Father said, that's not too much. I say, you don't know what that means, sleep like chocolate. But you need to do something at Lent. Make a commitment that you are going to do something for Holy Rosary and join this legend of people who have been working at it. And it could be any number of things. A phone call to Miss Linton, it's good, and say, "I just met somebody who wants to give $100,000 to Holy Rosary." You say, "Where are they? What time will they be where they are?" We'll be there. My point is, you can become missionaries for people who may not know, but you'll tell the story and they'll be willing to do something. And remember what faith is. Faith is something you don't know, but you believe hard enough that it'll become possible. If you know it, it's not faith. If you're playing poker with 4 aces and a wild deuce, you know you're going to win the game. But if you got only 2 deuces and nothing else, and somebody calls the hand, you better have a whole lot of faith. But that's what faith is, and if you have it deep and strong enough, how many times in your life that you have wanted something to happen, and you prayed, and it happened? That was part of that faith that we all had in Lafayette. And I still remember to this day that growing up in Lafayette was like living in an oyster shell. Everybody protected us. It was the neighbors on the street. If you did something wrong down on the block, I lived on the first block of Lafayette Street, 212. Cameron was next. I could do something wrong on Cameron, and by the time I got to 212, my mother, my father knew it, and I was about ready to go get on my knees. We had neighbors who protected us. We had parents who told us and said to us, "You can be whatever you want to be." My daddy never believed I'd be a president of a very distinguished university for 43 years. Never. I didn't either. But I played the hand they dealt me. And I have never looked back. Because I look now at all those jewels that are now farmers, doctors, teachers, lawyers, and they're doing great things. And I sit back and say to my daddy, "You could go with that bishop, but I got a whole lot of other people who are going to bring me up the way for all of those good things we did." And I didn't do one of those things alone. My secret, and I'll tell you, is be the secret for Holy Rosary in your life. You hire people smarter than you, and you get out of their way. And my vice presidents, I sleep well at night. My vice presidents sleep like babies. They wake up every 2 hours. And you know why? I run an institution that says if you're the head of my fiscal operation and there's a decision to make the next morning, you're going to make it. Now, surely we've decided on the policy, but I don't know all the fiscal business in the world. You know, I don't know all about how you figure out these different things. I tell these vice presidents for finance, they walk in with all of these things, and I remember my little fractions from St. Paul's taught by a sister of the Holy Family. And I said, that's not right. Oh, and they say, what do you mean? You know, I calculated all. I said, it's not right. And they look at it and say, no, you know it's right. I hit the wrong key. Point is, for us tonight, make a pledge to yourself for the future of Lafayette. And people forget this. This is not just the people who live around Holy Rosary. It's important for the community, for Lafayette, and even this state. And say, when they call me, I'm going to answer. Somebody called my name, and I'm here tonight. And I appreciate it. I'll be in New York Tuesday morning, doing the same thing for Xavier. But I don't mind that. People say, you're going to let somebody give to Holy Rosary? And I said, the people I talk to can give to 50 people. I'm not taking any money out of Holy Rosary's, out of Xavier's pockets for Holy Rosary. If it's a good idea, if it's going to help somebody, I'm willing to be there. I hope you are too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Francis. And I'm very privileged to be a fraternity brother of Dr. Francis's with our Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. And I think based on the words that he spoke here this evening, you can understand why our national aims are manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind. Thank you. Thank you. We've heard a little bit about from whence Holy Rosary has come and what it was. We'd like to look forward toward a vision and to the future. So for the future vision of Holy Rosary, we'll call on Mr. Kirby Pico, architect.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'd like to start by saying my involvement with this building, Holy Rosary Institute. I was raised in New Iberia, went to USL, UL now, and would drive by the building on the highway, and it was a gorgeous building. And since that time, the building has continued to deteriorate, and it's deteriorating rapidly. If this building would be a person, we'd have to send it to the emergency room and then put it on in the intensive care. I'm following Dr. Francis' inspired speech, and I'm a little humbled here because I'm not going to speak in some inspired way because it's a tragic situation that we're dealing with. I'll show you a picture of the building that was published. In a book of the historic buildings of Louisiana. In that same book is the St. Louis Cathedral in New Orleans. Next door, the Cabildo, where the Louisiana Purchase was signed. This building is in that same category. It's in the same book of great buildings of Louisiana. Well, that building doesn't look like that anymore. I'm going to say a few words and then I'll be quiet and I'll just go through some film. You'll see how bad this building is, the state it's in. It's not deteriorating a little bit at a time, it's deteriorating rapidly. I first entered the building in 2005, after driving by many times and saying, I have to do something about this, I want to get involved. I got involved through the blessings of Ms. Gloria Linton. She invited me to meetings. We met. We talked with the Alumni Association, and I'm glad we are here today. But this three-story building is of masonry construction, load-bearing walls. The exterior walls are load-bearing, which means that the framing for the second, third, and roof engage the brick walls on the exterior as well as the interior. The walls stay vertical because the diaphragm action of the roof and the floors. That's disappearing. The roof had holes in it in 205, and it's so terrible now you can't even access the building. That's what the front porch looks like now. These are shots of the interior of the building. You can see the masonry walls, they had plaster on, collapsed. That was a stair that I climbed in 2005. You can't get to the second floor now because it's on the ground. This patient is in bad shape. And if something isn't done very shortly, it may not be saved. Termites enter the building, obviously, because this moisture comes through the roof. There's food in there for the termites. The beautiful beams are partially rotten. That's the first floor. At least the first floor is somewhat solid. Look at that. The beautiful doors, I think they were stolen. Someone may have found them. Vandals have been in the building. And I'm sorry to present something that's negative, but these are the facts. What I did, I measured the building. I had some old plans and measured the building, and gave the plans to a contractor, J.B. Mouton & Son. They started in the early 1900s, and we priced what the I'm going to call it the white box. To stop the deterioration of the building, we'd have to, first of all, on the first floor, rebuild the first floor, then tear the second floor down and rebuild the second floor. And from the second floor as a platform, tear the third floor down, build it, and from the third floor, tear the remaining part of the roof and rebuild it, and then put a new roof on it. And that is just to restore the building. We're not talking about electrical systems, plumbing, air conditioning, security, sprinkler. We're just talking about the beginning of the building to secure its safety. This is a building section, and I realize it's a little difficult to read. We would have to tear out those floors and then put new roof trusses so that we could secure the building from the elements. Let me go all the way back to the front. I was in the, I love New Orleans. I go to New Orleans a lot. And as a matter of fact, have season tickets prior to the storm since probably 2002. And it was amazing to be in the facility prior to Katrina. And then there was that